Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa. Woohoo! Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa. Internet world, West Alabama, downtown Northport, where I am right here on BamaCentral.com. Everybody on the internet, you can find us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. You're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon. This is the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com. Welcome into a new week. We are approaching our 100th episode. Woo-hoo. Do I look a little older? I had my 34th birthday on Friday, and I want to thank everybody who sent me great messages, whether it be on the social media machines, whether it be on my telephone, whether it be in person. I appreciate everybody sending me great messages. Happy birthday to me. Now we're moving on. And I want to thank everybody who joined me on Friday. We had Katie Wyndham, Austin Hannon, Blake Byler. We had my man Michael Bronner. We had my man Isaac Bell, my cousin James Gaither, and Timothy Gardner jumped in for just a little bit on the Friday episode. You can watch all the old episodes on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. You can watch them at the Bama Central YouTube channel. You can listen to them on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon. I want to encourage you, last week on Thursday, we had Coach Todd McVeigh, Jalen Milroe's high school coach, on the Thursday episode. So if you missed that and you want to hear Jalen Milroe's high school coach, it was really, really interesting. He talked about Jalen's progression from sophomore year, where he took over as the starter for the Tompkins Falcons out there in Katy, Texas. He talked about his progression from a sophomore to senior, and that was a really, really interesting conversation. If you missed that, I would encourage you to check that out on the Thursday episode of last week. That's October 5th. What are we going to do? What are we going to do on a Monday? We're going to have a lot of fun. Hopefully, we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of fun with you. You can jump in on the comment section at Joe Gaither 6 on all the social media machines, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, all the places. I think TikTok as well. We are at Joe Gaither 6 on all these social media machines. And we encourage you to shoot us a follow, send us a friend request, shoot us a DM. We will interact with any and all of our fans and our enemies. If you hate what I'm doing, you can tell me how much of a bozo I am, and I'll say thank you very much and appreciate you listening, and how can I get better? We appreciate all the constructive and not so constructive criticism. It's all welcome right there at Joe Gaither 6. We encourage you to follow our other Bama Central Broadcasting Network podcast, Blue Collar Unplugged, Blake Byler, Matthew Gibson, and Jacob Pickle, as we are, 30 days away from Alabama basketball tipping off. And got a little butt dial from my friend, head coach Wimp Sanderson, a little while ago. He's doing okay. Make sure you check out Coach Sanderson on the social media machines as well. He is the man. But we're not here to talk about basketball. We are here to break down Alabama's 26-20 victory over the Texas A&M Aggies this past weekend right there on CBS. You guys followed everything on BamaCentral.com. We had Katie Wyndham, Austin Hannon, and Blake Byler out there at College Station, and they did such a great job right there in College Station. Yes, sir. My man James Ludeman jumping in on the comments right there. Wild game on Saturday. Defense wins championships. Man, this defense will travel. This defense will travel, and I know a lot of people are not really still sold on this Alabama football team, maybe from an offensive perspective, and obviously you do need more things to clean up on offense, but things look better offensively. But James Ludeman, right there on the Facebook side of things, I believe he hosts his show as well, All Things SEC. You guys can listen to him. He's exactly right. The defense will travel, and I think this defense is the best defense in the SEC. Is it the best defense in the nation? Well, I'll be honest, I haven't watched every defense in the nation, but I think this defense is easily the best defense in the SEC. I know Georgia, you're the back-to-back defending champions, and we'll get into the Georgia-Kentucky game in just a little while. At the very end of the show, we'll talk about other SEC observations, but this defense is the best defense in the SEC. Yeah, a lot of talk going into the weekend was the A&M defense and their defensive front, and yes, you got to give them a lot of credit for putting a lot of pressure on this Alabama team. 6 sacks, 8 tackles for loss for the A&M contingent. Got to give them a lot of credit, holding the Alabama rushing yardage to 23 total yards. Yes, you take the sack yardage into that. It does play into that. So Jace McClellan's 45 yards, Roy Dale Williams 9 yards. That's 54 yards on the ground for the two running backs. And you subtract Jalen Milroe minus 31, gives you 23 rushing yards for the Crimson Tide. Yeah, A&M, they showed out on defense. They showed out defensively. But I think the Alabama defense did even more. did even better. Obviously, so holding the Aggies to just 20 points on the day. Now, and scoring, I guess that's more of a special teams score, scoring on the block field goal that was made Alabama's sixth touchdown called off the board this season for penalties. But let's get into it. Let's talk about. I've got several notes here on my sheet, and you guys, of course, can jump in with your observations, just as my man James Ludeman did on the Facebook side of things. I've got one, two, three, four, five or six observations from the game. And I want to encourage you to go to BamaCentral.com tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. You will have my post-game, my rewatch breakdown, as I've done on the social media machines the last couple of weeks. We did put up, 41, 46? I think it was 41 observations from the Mississippi State game. I'm working on the observations from the A&M game, and those will be out tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on BamaCentral.com. You can check out the game, rewatch it with me, go through all the clips. If you didn't get to see the game, it'll be a quick way to watch the game, and you'll see inside the crazy mind of Joe Gaither, how I watch football. Maybe you like it, maybe you hate it, but it will give you a little more insight on myself and the Alabama Crimson Tide. All right, so let's start with Jalen Milroe. Obviously, it's all about the quarterback right here on the Joe Gaither Show, and really everybody's mind is on the quarterback, how Alabama's going to replace Bryce Young. Well, we're 6 games in, and okay, it's not Heisman Trophy caliber, but goodness gracious, there is growth. There is tangible growth each and every week. So what do you want to do? Do you want to focus on the negative? You can, if that's the way you want to watch the football game. Or do you want to focus on the positive? I'm sorry, that's usually the way that I try to watch football is, look, these players, whether they're Alabama players, Auburn players, Texas A&M players. I played football at the high school level as an average Andy athlete. I was not a superstar. And I coached, I served as a student assistant coach for Alabama one season, 2008, Alabama's 12-2 year, Nick Saban's second year. I know how hard these guys work. So I try to focus on the positives. I try to focus on the growth aspects. Now, obviously, when there are negatives, and we will point out some negatives, we have to focus on those. But Jalen Milroe has just been a bevy, a well of positives week after week after week. Okay, you want to talk and cry about the interception? Fine, you can talk and cry about the interception. He throws an interception in the third quarter. Was it the right read? Yes, it was the right read. Was it too much of a floating pass? Yes, it was. You can complain about that. He had too much touch on it. Everything that you've complained about Jalen Milroe about throughout the year, about his throwing mechanics, did come into play in that interception. It was too much of a dart. I'm placing this ball with my hand. I'm trying to hit the dartboard, not stepping, it wasn't quite a great throw, stepping into the throw and firing it at Amari Niblack. Now, was Amari Niblack open? Yes, he was. Now, was the safety also kind of baiting Jalen Milroe? Yes, he was. So was it more of a good play on the A&M safety side, or was it a bad play on the Jalen Milroe side? You can kind of make your own arguments there. I will say it was a good decision, bad execution for Jalen Milroe on the interception. Now, 6 sacks. Oh, you take 6 sacks. You go back to last week against Mississippi State, and they sacked you 2 times, Jalen Milroe, and both times against Mississippi State, you could have thrown the football away. But you didn't. This past week, you're still dealing with some of that. Could have thrown the football away, but you didn't. Now, later in the game, Jalen Milroe is feeling the rush, and he does throw the football away. So I go back to Jalen Milroe is showing signs every single week. Every single week, he's showing signs of improvement. Now, early in the game, he's holding, he's waiting, he's looking down the field, and the first sack of the game, boom, you have rolled yourself out. You didn't throw the football away. You got tackled from behind. Not good. Those are things and areas of improvement, Jalen. Now, later in the game, he's probably thinking about that sack. He's probably thinking about everything that he was coached during the week from the Mississippi State film where you got tackled twice from behind and you took sacks in unnecessary situations. Boom, he throws it out of bounds. And I don't know whether you listened to our man Chris Stewart and Tyler Watts on Crimson Tide Sports Network. That probably was a great decision if you did. But I am a little bit on the lazy side. And I watch it straight from CBS with Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson. I do like Brad Nessler. I am very anti-Gary Danielson, not because I think he's biased against Alabama, but because I think he, I don't know. I think he gets stuck on certain plays and certain concepts and doesn't let them go. Now, on that concept, he goes, "Oh, I don't know if Milroe got out of the pocket. I don't know if he got out of the pocket." No, it was close. It was absolutely close. I added. Oh, perfect. My man Chris Walsh sending me a little note on the article that I just wrote on BamaCentral.com, writing about Justin Aboigbe's comments on KJ Jefferson as Arkansas is next up. But we're still talking about A&M. We're breaking down the A&M game. Look, Gary Danielson talks. Oh, I don't know if he got out of the pocket. Well, even if he did or he didn't, it shows growth. Getting rid of the football, not holding. Now, look, Jalen Milroe is a supreme athlete. And throughout high school, I'm sure that he thought I can get away with running, I can get away with holding, and none of these defensive ends are going to catch me. He is seen now through five starts and 5 games of action. Yes, we played 6 games, but he's been in 5 of them. That is not necessarily the case at the college level, and it's not necessarily the case in the SEC. Jalen Milroe later in the game throws the football away and shows growth. Live to fight another down. Give your offense a chance to stay somewhat on schedule, even if it's 2nd and 10. Don't take the sack to go 2nd and 14, 2nd and 16. Those kinds of situations are not good. Now, Jalen Milroe, what did he do throughout the game? He read the defense. He challenged them. Through the air, and you got to give the offensive line a lot of credit. You have to give Jalen Milroe a lot of credit, and you got to give Jermaine Burton a lot of credit. Sure, you took 6 sacks. Sure, you couldn't run the football. But let's all be honest with ourselves. The talent on the A&M front 7 is very, very high. Is as high as as you're going to see the entire year. It's as high as you saw against Texas. It's as high as you're going to see against any other elite defense. If you end up making it to Atlanta and you play against the Georgia Bulldogs, it is that high. You're going to have to make some plays through the air. And that's exactly what they did. Jalen Milroe, 21 of 33 through the air, 321 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. If I'd have read that off and said, hey, this is Bryce Young's numbers, this is Mac Jones' numbers, this is Tua Tagovailoa's numbers, or even Jalen Hurts' numbers, 321 yards, 3 touchdowns. Yeah, you don't like the 1 interception, but you basically are right on line and right on par passing-wise as the greats that have come through this program. I mean, come on now. You obviously don't want to have the interception. You probably want to have a little higher efficiency rating. You had Jalen Milroe, a couple misses over to a couple of high balls, a couple of balls that were too high in the first half. And you can attribute that to being too keyed up, playing 90 miles away, 80 miles away, 90 minutes away from his high school, having a lot of friends and family in the stadium. And obviously it's a huge environment. I think Jalen Milroe played about his best game. Now, I thought he played his best game against Mississippi State. He played even better against Texas A&M this past weekend. Yeah, you don't want the sacks. Yeah, you don't want the interception. But I think Jalen Milroe probably played about an A- level against the best defense that he has played and faced since Texas, at least. I don't know if A&M has a better defense than Texas. I wish we could see those two teams play. But it was easily the best defense since Texas. A better defense than Ole Miss, better defense than State, obviously a better defense than USF. So Jalen Milroe, give you about an A- an A for this past weekend's performance. You largely took care of the football. Yes, the interception's there. Obviously, don't want to have that. But you largely took care of the football. You distributed it. You gave your man Jermaine Burton a lot of chances. You hit Isaiah Bond on the wide open pass for a touchdown. You played your tail off. You delivered the football, and you really just guided the Alabama offense, who was having some trouble, obviously trouble running the football. But Jalen Milroe really was the catalyst. Now, going into the season, you have a lot of people, saying, "Oh my gosh, the quarterback just has to fit in. You can't win with the quarterback, you can't win because of the quarterback. All they've got to do is fit in." Well, Jalen Milroe did more than fit in this past weekend, throwing for 321 yards, throwing the football down the field to Jermaine Burton, down the field to Isaiah Bond, was really the catalyst for this team. Now, I know you went into halftime. Down. What was it? You went into halftime down 17-10, and you're feeling like, oh my gosh, we played such a terrible half. You had 5 pre-snap penalties in the first half. One on Jermaine Burton, a couple of them on different offensive linemen. You have a bunch of pre-snap penalties. You've only put up 10 points. A&M's been, taking the momentum. You obviously notice by the time halftime is rolled around that you're having a hard time running the football. So you go into halftime, and I want you to really think about the last handful of half times. Obviously, you lose. Obviously, the Texas game doesn't turn out the way you want to. But at halftime, you go into halftime and you end up playing such a good third quarter that you have a fourth quarter lead against Texas. You go into halftime against Ole Miss. What are you down by 1 point? You're down 1 point, or you're down 3? You're down 1 at halftime against Ole Miss. But anyways, it's a close game against Ole Miss. You come out at halftime, your adjustments that you've made against Texas, against Ole Miss, against A&M in 3 straight big games, your halftime adjustments have turned into really, really nice second halves. Obviously, you have the turnover against Texas that kind of sets them up, and really the momentum goes downhill against Texas in the fourth quarter. But Ole Miss, you basically play a perfect second half. Everybody can look at that second half against the Ole Miss game and you think, oh my gosh, that is true Alabama football. These guys are finding themselves. And that gave the Alabama faithful a lot of confidence. Obviously, confidence that carried over into the Mississippi State game. And we talked about it on our program last week. Mississippi State is bad. Mississippi State is a bad football team. They showed it again this week playing Western Michigan, Lance Taylor's Western Michigan. Look, they're a bad football team. I would throw basically everything that you saw against Mississippi State out the window. But you saw it again this past weekend against A&M. A second half that ended up being Alabama 16-3 in the second half to win the game. You came back, you won the second half handily. The defense was impressive in all of these second halves against Ole Miss, against Mississippi State, against A&M. You're holding these guys defensively to almost nothing in the second half. I think you really have to give a compliment. Look, we were on with Ryan Fowler last week on Tuesday discussing these Alabama coaches, discussing the development of the players. And okay, I think that is absolutely fair to question the development of these offensive linemen, to question the development of the quarterbacks to this point. But what you have seen each and every second half of the game in the games this year is Kevin Steele, Tommy Rees, Nick Saban, got to give it to Nick Saban, have basically said, all right, well, here's what we've done in the first half. Here's what's not working. Here's what is working. And you've developed a second half game plan in the 20 minutes time span of halftime to basically give your team a great chance to win the game. And so you got to give compliments to the coaching staff in the second half, whether that be analysts watching the game, whether it be actually Tommy Rees, whether it be Eric Wolford getting involved. I think the second halves of all these games have been game planned. Hey, Abby, how are you? You can see Abby on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, jumping into our lap, and she wants to get involved. She was into the ball game on Saturday, watching Alabama take out, Reveille? So, no, the second half game plans have been impressive, mostly from a defensive standpoint, but also response from an offensive standpoint, knowing what's going to work, putting their guys into great positions. You saw the offensive line clean up a lot of its protections in the second half and give Jalen Milroe a lot of time to throw the ball. So you talked about Jalen Milroe. We're going to give him an A minus for the ball game. We've complimented the coaches for their second half game plans, and their second half game plans throughout the year have been very, very strong. Let's talk about the other player of the game, Jermaine Burton. Jermaine Burton. Now, I got a little hell on Twitter for comparing him to John Petty, and a lot of people wanted me to compare him instead to Javon Quinterly. Jermaine Burton, 9 receptions, 197 yards, 2 tutties, had that 46-yarder for his long. He averaged 21, 22 yards per reception. Oh my gosh, Jermaine Burton, so emotional. Such an emotional player. He's been up and down, good Jermaine, bad Jermaine throughout the year. And really, Coach Saban complimenting him for his maturity coming into the year. Jermaine Burton, every time he's at the podium, has said that he wanted to come back to really influence and show the guys, the younger guys, how to play the game, how to develop as receivers and be helpful. Obviously, there's a little bit of selfishness. He wanted to have a good year so that he can probably make his draft stock go as high as possible. But I have no issue with that. You should have no issue with that. That's what it's all about for these players. Yeah, championships and playing well and winning, but it's all about getting to the next level, getting paid at the next level, making headway at the next level. And Jermaine Burton has really acquitted himself over the last 5-6 games. Really. I know last year I was very hard on him. I thought, what the heck is this guy? We don't want him. We don't need him. This guy has just been maybe not so much of a team player. This guy has gotten, needs to be more mature. And you've seen some semblances of that throughout the season. You get the drop touchdown pass against USF. You have a couple of drops. And really, early in this game, I thought, oh my God, we're about to see bad Jermaine. You're about to see bad Jermaine. He gets the first long bomb. It's 35-yarder, something of that nature. Moves Alabama's offense down the field. He jaws at his man, and fine. You want to be emotional? You jaw at your man. Okay, no big deal. But you have to rein it in. The first third down of the game, the first third down that he drew that was thrown his way, boom, drop. Oh, pain. Absolute pain. And I think, Jermaine, you SOB, why are you dropping the football? Get your head in the game. He also has a false start on the first drive of the game. Not good. Come on, man. Watch the ball. Watch the ball. Everybody, we're going on silent count. Watch the football. Watch the football. Turn your head. Watch the football. Don't jump early. Don't make life harder on your quarterback, on your offensive line. All right, so you have the drop. You have the false start. You get the second drive of the game where Jalen gets sacked, and boom, he's jawing. He's jaw-jacking at his defender, and boom, 15-yard penalty, unsportsmanlike conduct on Jermaine Burton. And I think, oh, you. Come on, man. You are not giving your team a chance to win the game. You're not being a team player. You are being a me player. And, okay, you deal with that with some wide receivers. But really, since that unsportsmanlike conduct, after the unsportsmanlike conduct, he had already gotten the false start. He had made the drop on the first drive. 3 not goods in combination with 1 good. Okay. All right. Not bad. Not good at all. Not good. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, this is not going to be our day. It's not going to be Alabama's day. Why? Because Jermaine Burton is not in the ballgame mentally. Well, Jermaine Burton, he responded to the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty very, very well. Now, obviously, if your guy plays on emotion, if that's part of your ball, if that's part of your game, I want you to be you. I want you to be maximum you as possible. But you can't hurt the team. So the first 2 drives, you've kind of hurt the team a little more than you've helped the team. What does he do the rest of the game? It's only 8 receptions, only 2 touchdowns, only really Jalen Milroe's go-to guy. Yes, you do have the fumble late in the game, and you think, oh my gosh, you're just trying to do too much. And there's a little element that, yes, he's trying to do too much. But where would you be without Jermaine Burton? I saw people, my man Christian Sykes and I went back and forth just a little bit in a nice way. I love you, Christian. About is the John Petty comparison correct? Well, he said, you needed John Petty his senior year. You absolutely need Jermaine Burton right now on this football team. Oh, you absolutely need him. I know Isaiah Bond got himself a touchdown pass and had a pretty decent little day as well. Isaiah Bond with 7 receptions, 96 yards, and the 52-yard tutty. Yeah, but you need Jermaine Burton on this team right now. Jermaine Burton, your go-to guy as a receiver? Sure, maybe John Petty shot you out of some of these games, and maybe John Petty had a little emotional outburst a couple of different times on the basketball court. Jermaine Burton, the same sort of way. You have the false start. You have the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. You have maybe some of the the drops where you don't, you have some of the drops where that you're like, oh, what are you doing here? But without him, You don't have the touchdown catch. You don't have either of the touchdown catches, excuse me. You need Jermaine Burton. Jermaine Burton has developed into a pretty nice little wide receiver one. Is he really a true number one? I don't know. You can debate that. You can absolutely debate that. But I think that, Cameron Rossi, this just in. Cameron Rossi joining me on the Facebook side. This just in. Bama was flagged for another false start penalty. We'll talk about the false starts here in just a second after the Jermaine Burton conversation. But yeah, oh my God, terrible, terrible, terrible. Jermaine Burton is a necessity. Will you say he's a necessary evil? I don't think he's quite to the evil spot. But you take the good with the bad. You know that you're going to get the false start. You know you got the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. You know you've got a drop, and you know you've got the fumble. But on the other side, you've got 9 receptions, almost 200 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Would you take him off the field for any of the bad? Maybe, but you won't have the 9 receptions, 200 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and thus you have a big fat L going back from College Station. So Jermaine Burton, you have to give him a lot of compliments. Now, is it an A-plus performance? I think you have to take away the A-plus because of the negatives, the fumble, the unsportsmanlike conduct, the drop on third down, the false start on the first drive. You cannot quite give him an A-plus performance, but you absolutely have to compliment him. You absolutely have to give him some flowers for his day on Saturday, and you absolutely have to acknowledge his importance to this football team, because without him, who's your number one? Is it Isaiah Bond? Bond is a nice player. He's a nice player. Malik Benson has been an disappointment, honestly, for me, because I thought Malik Benson was going to come onto this roster and absolutely tear up some defensive backs. I did. And that's a mistake on my part. Would it be Ja'Cory Brooks? Where's Ja'Cory Brooks? MIA. Missing in action, Ja'Cory Brooks. Now, is it because of practice habits? Is it because of off-the-field habits, going to class, going to meetings, doing the little things? I've heard some of that, not reporting because I don't know. But without Jermaine Burton, you don't have a wide receiver one. And I know Jalen Hale's had a nice little resurgence over a couple of weeks, but Jermaine Burton has been your most consistent contributor in the receiving game. Now, I know Amari Niblack has been impressive from the tight end position, but Amari Niblack still has a lot of developing to do. Also dropped a pass on Saturday. So, Jermaine Burton, I give you flowers for your day. I accept some of the frustrating parts of your game. I accept some of your frustrating aspects of your game. Yeah, I'd like to see you be a little more emotionally in control. Yeah, I'd like to see you a little more focused on the false start penalty and on the dropped pass on third down. Yeah, I'd like to see you try to, hold on to the dadgum football. Don't fumble the ball away. But you got to accept, and you have to give Jermaine Burton his flowers. Okay, Cameron Rossi hits the next point I want to go to. This just in, Alabama flagged for another false start penalty. I believe Alabama had how many penalties in the game officially? From our team stats here, Alabama with 14. 14 penalties in the game. That puts you in the range of Tennessee last year and in the range of Texas last year. Not good, man. Not good. And yes, just like Cameron Rossi said, he had 5 pre-snap penalties in the first half. I don't know how many it finished. I think it was 9. I think the official count was 9 pre-snap penalties. And okay, I got a little bit of what are we doing here from an Alabama perspective. All right. So one's on Jermaine Burton. You get a couple on Amari Niblack / CJ Dupree, who's playing tight end. You got 2 on Jaden Roberts. You got 1 on Caden Proctor, 1 on Elijah Pritchett. Both left tackles had a false start. Massive problem snapping the football, not from a snap standpoint. You got one snap infraction from Seth McLaughlin. I know he double clutched one of the snaps. But largely, Seth McLaughlin had a pretty good day snapping the football. I know that was everyone's biggest concern. Will McLaughlin snap a ball into Jalen Milroe's ankles? Will McLaughlin snap a ball over Jalen Milroe's head? What's he going to do? Now, that part of the game was fine. That part of the game was pretty clean, and I appreciate Seth McLaughlin. Give you a little flowers right there. The improvement that we saw week in and from one week to another in that area. That's been an area that's been a huge problem through the first 5 weeks. Week number 6 looks a little more cleaned up. Now it's got to continue. But goodness gracious, what are we doing? Are we the most undisciplined football team in America? You got to know that you can't go before the snap of the football. All right, Coach Saban talking today in the Naylor Stone media room right there in the Malmore Athletic Complex, saying, we went on silent count. When you go on silent count, the guard taps the center. The defensive line does an adjustment, and he acknowledged that it is legal. They do make an adjustment, and in that adjustment, guys jump off sides. Oh, yeah. There's got to be something. There has to be. Now, Jalen Milroe getting up to the podium today saying, I have to be louder at the line of scrimmage. Okay, I think that A&M is number one, number two loudest stadium in the SEC. Not only is it the largest stadium by capacity, but they all cheer in sync. They all watch the yell leaders, not cheerleaders, the yell leaders. So they're all cheering the same sorts of things, and they're all in sync. So that makes it thus louder. I do love you, Bryant-Denny Stadium, but the fact that you're out of sync, you can't get the whole stadium to go roll tide. Roll tide. At the same time, it hurts the effectiveness of the crowd, I will say. The A&M crowd is highly effective. The A&M crowd is highly in sync and on the same page. Okay, so you're using a silent count. That's fine. But what are your eyes doing? Your eye discipline from the offensive line standpoint. Your eye discipline from the wide receiver standpoint. Jermaine Burton, you're not looking down the line of scrimmage into the center, waiting on the center to snap the ball. There's too much anticipating the snap. Now, I know the athletes that A&M had up front probably contribute to that. Like I said at the very beginning of the show, it was one of the best front sevens that Alabama will face the entire year. Walter Nolan, he is a stud. Alabama wanted him. Tennessee wanted him. Everybody and their mother wanted Walter Nolan to come to their school. And they've got some great athletes. Their recruiting class from 2 years ago. You got LT Overton. You got a lot of great athletes on the A&M front. And so, yeah, you do maybe want to cheat a little bit, maybe want to be into your stance a little bit, maybe want to get back and block a little bit. But come on, whatever the front does is irrelevant. You have to be watching the football. You have to hold your water. You have to understand that you cannot penalize your own team. Now, when you're talking about, we can't run the football, Alabama can't run the ball, everything's going to be on the passing game. Well, Jalen Milroe, from a young perspective, a young quarterback, you don't want to be putting him behind the chains. You don't want to be putting him in 1st and 15 and 2nd and 15. You don't want to be putting him in these situations where you're constantly fighting the officials and fighting the chains. It's a problem. Now, for Alabama's sake, you're about to run into a good part of the schedule. You bring Arkansas in. You're playing at home for homecoming. You're bringing Tennessee in next week, 2:30 on CBS. It's a home game. You get a week off. You bring in LSU in. It's a home game. Is that the order? And then you're going to Kentucky or Kentucky first? Let me double check myself. Then you're going to Kentucky. Not going to be that crazy of an environment. No disrespect to you in Kentucky. It's going to be loud. It will be loud, but it'll be nothing like the A&M environment. And then you come back home. You're going to have an 11 a.m. game against UT Chattanooga. It's a home game. So look, your next 4 out of your next 5 games with a bye week are all at home. You're going to Kentucky for your next road experience in the SEC. And they're obviously having a good year. They got their butt kicked this past weekend. But look, let's all look ahead. Let's all think ahead, further down the line, the last game of the year at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Jordan-Hare Stadium, if you want to say it technically. Look, they're going to be loud. They're going to want to make their season by beating Alabama. And I will be honest, the atmosphere at Jordan-Hare Stadium is absurd. Look, they got no talent in the quarterback room. They do have a nice little offensive line. Their defense is going to play inspired. Hugh Freeze is going to get them fired up and motivated. But I'll tell you what, everybody in Jordan-Hare Stadium wearing orange and blue is going to be yelling their tails off at this team. You cannot have these false start problems. Now, Coach Saban last week talking about, we're going to practice with noise on Thursday. We're going to practice with noise on Thursday. Great, good idea. But Coach, why? Now, the next game I coach will be my first. But why are you not practicing with noise on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Friday? Why are you not getting them ready each and every day? Now, I know part of that is because it makes it harder to coach in practice. You got to, make corrections with a lot of noise, and you want the guys to hear you, this, that, and the other. I get that. I understand that. And maybe, absolutely maybe, coach is not being forthright. Maybe they're practicing with noise each and every day on select periods. But Coach, Jordan-Hare Stadium ain't going to be nice to you. It's not going to be nice to you. You're going up to Kentucky, they're going to try to influence your offense as best they can. Oh, highly frustrating. Highly frustrating. Coach Saban on Hey Coach on Thursday talking about shooting your own foot off. And you just got to. Now, one of the false starts on Jaden Roberts was a bad call. I think it was a bad call. I'll say that. I think that he got called for a false start that was not a good call. But the rest of them are valid. The rest of them are right there now. So you have 9 pre-snap penalties, 1 not a good call, 8 pre-snap penalties, 8 times you're tempting the officials to penalize yourself. So what do you need to evaluate your process. Evaluate your process, coach, because the results, at least in this area, are not good. Whether it be Jalen Milroe needs to just speak up. You can't hear the clap. You can't hear the snap. You can't hear him say set hut. Or you just need to hold your water. You see Tyler Booker looking back and looking at Jalen Milroe and seeing him get the signal, the foot raise or the head nod, and he taps Seth McLaughlin. McLaughlin waits and then snaps. Whatever the rhythm is here, needs to get worked on. Oh my gosh. And you have what, 5, 6 weeks? You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus an off week, 6 weeks until you go into Jordan-Hare Stadium. The next big monumental road test for this team. Yeah, Auburn is no good talent-wise. They aren't. Well, I'll be honest. They're just meh. But they're going to bring the noise, and they're going to try to make their season by beating Alabama. So you're going to have a noise factor plus a hyped-up team, and Hugh Freeze is going to try to have a huge win to end his first season as head coach on the Plains. You just got to do better. You got to do better. Effort penalties, I'm not so upset about. You get a holding here. You get a pass interference there. The pass interference on Trey Amos, I think, was a bit questionable. But those kinds of penalties happen. Those kinds of penalties are just part of the football game, the run and play. You cannot be shooting yourself in the foot by false starting, by delay of games, by snap infractions, by substitution violations. Now, you only had 1 snap infraction. You only had 1 substitution violation. You didn't have a substitution violation, so that's good. But I think I think that really you have to improve in this area. If you want to go forward and, you want to beat Auburn, you want to beat the brakes off Auburn. Now, talent-wise, you probably are going to beat them. But that's going to be an area of concern going into Lexington and into Auburn as the season progresses. Okay, one more topic on the game, and then we'll hit some SEC observations, and then tomorrow's program will be more focused on what I noticed on film, because I'm going to rewatch the film this evening and break it down for BamaCentral.com. It'll be up at 9 a.m. My observations for the game will be up at 9 a.m. on BamaCentral.com. Appreciate Chris Walsh and everybody at Bama Central for all their hard work covering the Crimson Tide. All right, one more observation: the blindside block. All right, it's been a subject of debate. It's been a subject of All right, so you have Caleb Downs come back and save the Jalen Milroe interception with an interception of his own. First off, Caleb Downs, you are a dadgum man. Football playing Jesse. You are a stud, an absolute stud, and I love watching you play ball. And through 6 games, your improvement has been noticeable. Yeah, you got burned a bit against Texas, but you have become really, really a stalwart in the back end as a true freshman. Wow, what a player, Caleb Downs. All right, so you have the fumble. Jermaine Burton fumbles. The defense stops him, forces a field goal. Chris Braswell busts through, 41-yard field goal attempt. Chris Braswell busts through, blocks the field goal. What a play. Not only blocks the field goal, recovers the block, and is flying down the field. Jalen Milroe says in press availability today that Chris Braswell has reached 21 miles an hour in practice or in the summer this past summer. 21 miles an hour. So if Jalen Milroe knows that, everybody on the team probably knows. If they don't know for sure that it's 21 miles an hour as his top speed, they know he's fast. Baseline, he's fast. All right, you're running down the sideline, and boom, Dallas Turner gets called for a blindside block on the kicker. Okay, all right, this is a layered conversation. Do you agree with the call or not? Is pretty much irrelevant. It's irrelevant. It's not even relevant to this discussion. Is the call legitimate? Well, the call was made, so yes, thus it is legitimate. Was it more of a shoulder-to-shoulder shot? Yeah, it was. Did Dallas Turner get in front of the kicker? Yes, he did. Barely got in front of the kicker. But it was more of a shoulder to shoulder block. Sure. So, yeah, you avoid the block in the back, Dallas Turner, as he was very close to being a block in the back. But you got in front of the kicker. You did hit him. Did you knock him down? Was it violent? Not really. All right. First, I hate the blindside block rule as a rule instead. As a rule. Look, as I going back to the very beginning of the conversation, I did play football up through high school as an average Andy football player. Not a great football player, very, very average at the high school level. But one thing that I was always taught, keep your head on a swivel. You ever watch fighting? You ever watch boxing? You ever watch UFC or wrestling? What do they say at the very beginning? Protect yourself at all times. Why are you out on a football field if you're not aware of your opponent, aware of the inherent danger? It is not a patty cakes football. It is not a patty cakes game. It's not a game where basketball or tennis where, you can call for a foul for just getting touched, or tennis where you're not really having any contact, or, name whatever sport where contact is not involved. No, contact is involved in football. Contact is one of the inherent one of the fabrics of the game. Now, of course, they are trying to legislate contact into being a more safer game. And yeah, whether you like that or not, that has been a focus over the last 10 years. Yeah, sure. But I hate the blindside block rule because you need to, if you're an edge rusher and a receiver is coming for your head on a crack block, your safety needs to see that and yell, crack, so that you turn your head and either olay the block or take on the block, but more appropriately, if you're getting killed on a blindside block, there's a teammate that has not had your back. I'm sorry, I despise the rule as a rule. That's the first part of this conversation. The second part of this conversation is Dallas Turner. I'm sorry, you're a great football player. You had a great year. You absolutely were a terror in this game. You had a successful game. Well, what did your final line end up being, Dallas Turner? Officially, Dallas Turner was involved in 4 tackles, 3 solo tackles, 1 sack, 1.5 tackle for a loss. So you had a great football game. Dallas Turner, what in the world are you doing? Why? Now, okay, I get it. If it's a blindside block that is going to spring your man on a punt return or spring your man on a block for, a swing pass down the sidelines, if it's going to make or break the play, all right, I get it. That can fall under an effort play. You just tried to make a play. You tried to make a play that was going to benefit your ball carrier. But Dallas Turner, your man Chris Braswell, who's your buddy, who plays your position, you know how fast he is. You know how athletic he is. You watched him last week break the pick 6 open and score last week. He is ahead of you. All right, he's ahead of you. What kicker in this conference, no disrespect to kickers, but what kicker in this conference is going to chase Chris Braswell down from behind? Which one? Name them. None. 0. I will argue over all 14 kickers. You can put them all up there. I love you, Will Reichert, and Will Reichert deserves your credit for stepping in as the punter with James Burton being hurt. Absolutely deserves credit for taking on that role as well, thrust into the role. But what kicker is chasing down Chris Braswell from behind at full speed? There is not a one in this conference. Not even you, Will Reichert. Absolute stupidity play for Dallas Turner. Whether you want to complain about the call, whether you want to complain about the official, whether you want to complain about the existence of the rule, it is an... As the dog bumps the microphone. Oh, thank you very much. It's an absolute stupidity play for Dallas Turner. Doggy, you just bumped everything, and that really upsets me. We are like at the end of the show, and come on now, that's kind of frustrating. There we go. That's a little better. Oh, there we go. Now they can hear me better. Come on, puppy. Dallas Turner, you're smarter than that. You're a better leader than that. You know what the game could have been on ice. Now, of course, Jalen Milroe and them boys, they did put the game on ice later in the game. Oh God! Nice catch by Jace McClellan. Stupid play by Jalen Milroe to throw the ball out to Blake Benson and save a little bit of time for Texas A&M. Now Alabama mitigated that and worked through that. But it could have been some dangerous play. But Dallas Turner, I love you. I love you, and I think that you're a hell of a player. You're probably top 3, top 4 most important player on this team. Very dumb play, very bad play, very dumb decision. Now, look, I get the temptation. I can hit the kicker. I can clean someone's clock, whether it's a quarterback, a kicker, or anyone trailing the play. I was always looking for somebody to crush as an average Andy athlete. It's fun. It's very fun. You're celebrating your guys going down the sidelines, but just not a smart decision for Dallas Turner. You saw Deontay Lawson kind of smack him up on the sidelines a little bit. Deontay Lawson played himself a heck of a game, coming back from ankle injury. But look, whether you want to cry about the call or not, the point is Dallas Turner has no business putting himself in that position. And so I am very confident that Nick Saban probably gave him quite a talking to after the game. Probably gave him quite a talking to today in meetings over that block, over that play. You don't put yourself in that position. Your man is already way ahead of you. It's behind the play, has no impact on the play, and thus you cost the Tide 6 points. Alabama's 6th touchdown removed by penalty this season, and that's just 6 too many. That's 6 too many, and especially some of them this year have been utter dumb plays. Now, you've had a couple holding. I know Jermaine Burton got himself a holding call. Okay, that's an effort deal. Got himself a holding call on a Jace McClellan touchdown. That's an effort deal. I know that Darian Dalcourt got called for man downfield. That's a nitpicky call. Sure. But, dude, to block somebody behind the play, whether it's a blindside block, whether it's a hit in the back, or neither of those, to put the official in that position to throw the flag, come on, Dallas Turner, you're a smarter football player than that. You're a better football player than that. All right, so let's wrap this bad boy up by talking about the other SEC games. First off, I think Alabama and Georgia have now, obviously, they're number 1 and number 2. They're leading the SEC East and leading the SEC West very clearly. But they have separated themselves as the best teams in the conference. You look at Missouri, they weren't able to get it done against LSU. LSU shows themselves as terrible defense, but still a very, very, very nice offense. Kentucky goes into Athens and gets smacked around, whether that's Kentucky playing badly or Georgia playing well. You've now got some pretty clear separation. Arkansas is a bad football team. We're going to talk about them later in the week. They are a bad football team. Mississippi State, bad football team. South Carolina, bad football team. Vanderbilt, bad football team. No, Florida, I'm not giving you much credit for beating Vanderbilt at home. You now get to go to South Carolina and play on the road again. Every time you play on the road, you play like dog poo. Florida, bad football team. You've got some bad football teams in this conference. Kirby Smart earlier last week said everybody in the SEC deserves to be ranked. That is not true, Kirby. That is not true at all. Yeah, I know you're probably setting yourself up for, a little conversation, selling your team to the committee in case you need to. But the teams 7 through 14, 8 through 14 in this conference, not good. Not good football teams. Now, you do have, 7 SEC teams in the coaches poll. You have 6 SEC teams in the AP Top 25 poll. You can read the BamaCentral power rankings that I put out each and every week right there on BamaCentral.com. After you get past Georgia and Alabama, I put Ole Miss third. I put LSU fourth, Missouri 5. I really do think that Kentucky is still a decent football team. I think I put Texas A&M at 6. Texas A&M is still a good football team. Good-ish. They've got a real good defense. They've got to coach a little more aggressively. Jimbo Fisher, funny Jimbo Fisher. You go for it on 4th and 1 early in the game instead of kicking an easy chip shot field goal, and then late in the game you settle for a kick instead of going for it. Just interesting strategy for Jimbo Fisher. You've got a lot of bad football teams in the SEC. Now you look around the rest of the country. You see Michigan, you see Texas and Oklahoma go wire to wire, and Oklahoma winning that game. I don't think that does anything bad to your Alabama perspective. Look, Alabama's path is clear. win the West, get to the SEC championship game, win the SEC championship game, and you're in the playoff. That's all you got to worry about. If you get to the SEC championship game and lose, then you've got to start worrying about politicking. And I don't think that is going to work out favorably for Alabama as you watch the rest of the season. Michigan looks good. Ohio State is Ohio State. They're always going to get love. USC does not look like a good football team. They look like they have a great offense with a great quarterback. If you stayed up till 1:30 on Saturday, like I did, you saw Lincoln Riley make several questionable decisions, questionable calls, but bailed out by his quarterback. Washington looks like a good football team. Going to have a great game this weekend, Washington and Oregon, kind of an eliminator game. Look, the conference, the conference is wide open for Alabama to take, is wide open for Georgia to take. You have a couple of dangerous football teams. I think Alabama just played one this past weekend in Texas A&M. They've got another dangerous one with LSU and Tennessee coming up, but I don't think they're good football teams. I think that Alabama is going to have to give gifts to LSU, give gifts to Tennessee, and play really poorly at Auburn to give away its lead and give away its place in the SEC West. Same thing for Georgia. Georgia's going to have to give Florida a lot of gifts. Going to have to give Florida a lot of opportunities. They're playing Vanderbilt this weekend. They're going to smack Vanderbilt without even trying. Missouri might challenge them, but Missouri's defense is just not quite good enough. So I think it's going to be, it's really setting up clearly for Alabama and Georgia once again to meet in Atlanta. The bottom end of the conference, bad football teams. LSU some weeks are good, some weeks is bad. I think Malik Neighbors and Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in this league. And Malik Neighbors probably a top 2, top 3 wide receiver. So with that combination, it's going to be challenging. But I trust Terrion Arnold. I trust Kool-Aid McKinstry. I trust this Alabama defensive front to not give up, 49 points? Is that what they ended up scoring against Missouri? Is that what I had? What was the 49-52? Was that it? Scores. They ended up playing Missouri to SEC. I know it was a wild game. 49-39. 49-39. I trust the Alabama defense not to give up 49 points to LSU. I like what you're seeing out of the Alabama team. I like the growth that you're seeing out of Jalen Milroe. I like the ability to win many different ways as you're seeing offensively. Head coach of the Tompkins Falcons talked to us on Thursday about that. Talked about Jalen Milroe's ability to not be a dual threat quarterback, but just take what the defense allows. This past week, Jalen Milroe didn't really run that much. Threw for 321 yards. I bet a lot of people didn't see that coming. Sure, some of that's helped by great receiver play with Jermaine Burton. But you know what? We got Jermaine Burton and others don't. I know that people want to talk bad about Carson Beck because he's got Brock Bowers. Well, they've got Brock Bowers and other teams don't. It doesn't matter. I think you're looking at a collision course, Alabama and Georgia now with week number 7 on deck. So look, we're going to have a fun rest of the week on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. We're going to try to catch up with an Arkansas reporter. Cannot wait to hear their perspective on Sam Pittman. We're going to do our observations tomorrow on BamaCentral.com, 9 a.m. You'll be able to see that article with video clips to rewatch the game with me. On Wednesday, we'll have SEC Silly Sound. On Friday, we'll have Football Friday. We'll reach out to all our Bama Central staff members. And on Saturday, I get to be in the press box. It's my assigned day in the press box for Bama Central. So I'm going to be tweeting and live updating from the press box. I cannot wait to be on the team on the ground on Saturday for homecoming. So I hope you all have a great week. I appreciate all the birthday messages that I got over the weekend. You can find me at Joe Gaither 6 on any and all the social media devices. Send me a friend request, send me a comment, question, query, and complaint. We're all open to any criticisms that you want to make of the show or of myself. And come back for another episode tomorrow on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com. You watched us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. You listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon. Tell a friend about the program. Share, rate, subscribe, review, 5 stars, 4 stars, comment. Tell everybody what a bozo we are, but share it with a friend to get more episodes and more eyes on the Joe Gaither Show right here on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com.